5 Network. This is Open Line.
Hi everyone, I'm Rhori Johnston, and we are live on a Thursday night here on News Channel 5 Plus. We hope you're having a great summer and a great week, staying cool out there. A very important topic tonight, issues with the criminal justice system, as you see on the screen. Those regular viewers, you know, if you'd like to call in with questions or comments for our guest tonight, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS. We do hope to hear from you, and we're pleased to welcome, and this is my first in-person guest post-pandemic, Rasheedat Fetuga from Gideon's Army. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in after a busy day, I know, but we're always glad to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
And it's so, we're talking about how strange it is to have, you know, face-to-face interactions with people again, getting used to it and all, but it is nice instead of staring at a screen and having the Zooms, which we still do, but this is a safe way to communicate. Rasheedat is the founder and the CEO of Gideon's Army, and we're going to talk a lot about what's happening in Nashville, what's happening in the country, some really important issues, and we want your opinions tonight. We want your honest opinion, but of course we want everyone to be respectful. So I'm going to start at the beginning.
Okay.
How did Gideon's Army start?
Oh, okay. Very beginning.
Yeah.
Gideon's Army started 10 years ago. I was a Metro public school teacher, and a lot of my students were being suspended and expelled, and I was really working to kind of figure out what to do to keep that from happening. But then I had a student, Lamar Hughes, and he wasn't actually in my classroom, but when he was in the 3rd grade, he told me, he was like, "Miss Fetuga, I'm not gonna live to see 18. The teachers don't want me in here. I keep getting suspended, expelled, even when I try. My neighborhood is violent." You know, he's saying this in 8-year-old language. And when Lamar was 16, he was gunned down. He was killed. And it was at that point that I really, really understood, like, school to prison pipeline. Like, I had been mentored by Marian Wright Edelman, civil rights leaders. I mean, I'd seen it as a black girl in school.
I was just going to say,
yes.
You know.
However, like, to be an adult and to see it from the perspective of an 8-year-old and then it play out when he's 16, it was extremely traumatic.
Gut punch, I'll bet.
Yes, very much so. And
where were you teaching at the time?
I was teaching at Carter Lawrence Math and Science Magnet School.
And what was, you talked about some of the issues. I mean, academically, did the school have enough resources? I mean, what was going on there? I mean, was it tough?
It was tough, but I think that when I always say, there's this quote, I don't know who said it, but the children who need the most love ask for it in the worst of ways. It's something like that, you know. And I think that there just have to be other strategies besides sending children to the office, suspending and expelling them. I sent one child in my, I think I taught for 8 years, which isn't a long time compared to my grandmother who taught 33 years. But I only sent one child to the office, and from then on, it was just figuring it out in the classroom.
Right. I taught, well, I was a substitute teacher back in the day for a couple of years, and it was high school level, but I found, at least at the school where I was, those kids who acted out weren't really bad kids in general. They were looking for attention. You know, it was a little, you know, and the same thing. If I pulled them aside afterward and say, "Hey, what's going on? You know, why? Do you understand if you do this, it's, you know, what's going on?" And face to face, and like you said, instead of the automatic, get out of here, go to the principal's office.
Yeah, you have to be accountable in my classroom. It's easier to go to the office than it is to sit in the classroom and have to make things right. And I didn't know that that was restorative justice at the time. It just made sense. That's how my family functioned. Like, I remember I went and I cut all my neighbors' flowers, and then I snuck back home and I made my mom this beautiful bouquet. And my mom was horrified, and so was the neighbor. But instead of just, you know, getting in trouble or being grounded, like, I had to go back and I had to make things right with this neighbor. I had to go back. I took her to her cut flowers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Apologized.
gosh. Yes,
yeah.
apologized. But then I also had to help her replant
Right.
her garden. And I did chores and things to make up for that, to earn the money to buy her the flowers back.
Right.
And that was very life-changing for me because it was a different level of accountability than just sitting at home, you know, in my room not doing anything. And so I really took that into the classroom. And then my granny was a school teacher. She never sent her children to the office. Like, they always worked it out in the classroom. And
so you decide something's got to be done when this boy dies at 16.
Yes.
And go from there a little bit.
So I was standing at his funeral and I said, I'm going to do this, start an organization, Gideon's Army, and really just commit my life to making sure that Lamar Hughes did not die in vain. In a lot of ways, it was my way of grieving and my way of healing from that intense level of grief. But after the funeral, so many people came. So many people wanted to help and wanted to be a part of it. And then Dr. Alan Kaysen, who was one of Nashville's original freedom riders, he joined us, and it was on and popping from there.
Really?
Yes.
All right. And here we are. How many years now?
10 years.
10 years.
Lamar was killed 10 years ago, and that's when Gideon's Army started.
So tell me now what the primary focus of the group is.
Our primary focus is keeping children in school, diversions from suspension, expulsion, really building a restorative Nashville, keeping children in school, and preventing violence. Those are like two primary things.
737+ is the phone number if you would like to call in with some questions. I know before we even get into the whole criminal justice system, which is obviously a key focus of your group and how you're working in the community, you've had some bad press over the years, right? And I know I was telling you in the break, went back and looked, and our Phil Williams did a really important story back in November of 2020, and you can find it I think if you search our website, it should still be on there. I can double check. But because some misinformation was out there, Phil made sure to do a complete story, talk to you and others to show people this is what Gideon's Army is. Because there were some people who were thinking that you were this radical social justice group, and you know, and you're shaking your head. How did that happen? Why does that happen?
I don't even know. I think people just have too much time on their hands, honestly. But there should just be no way that anyone can come against a school teacher who's tired of seeing her children be killed. Because it wasn't just Lamar. It was Tevin and Mikkel and Kenny and like so many of my children. And I think that, you know, because Gideon's Army does push for transformation of systems, that it's hard to let go of what you're used to. It's hard, but if you really think about it, a lot of the people who would think that they are against Gideon's Army would actually agree with the things that we say. We want to keep children in school because when they're out of school, they're getting in trouble. They're having more contact with the police, more interactions with violence, you know.
Right.
Just so many things. But yeah, I think that sometimes folks catch on to one thing and then they blow it up.
Right.
And
so how long has it been going on now, did you say, since you founded it, the group?
10 years.
10 years. What have you learned the most in that 10 years? About running a nonprofit, about the politics of it, about the people you're helping, and also now I'm sure you have a really good idea now. You talked about changing the systems, and we're going to talk about systemic issues because I think that's really key here, and I think a lot of folks have been talking a lot about that the last couple of years. Now that you're 10 years into it, looking and saying, okay, we know where we really need to focus our efforts and how much help you need. I know you really rely on a lot of volunteers, right?
We do. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that we have to not be afraid to be creative and to be willing to think outside the box and to be innovative, try new things. A lot of times what I've seen is that we keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And it doesn't happen in the way that people think it will happen. And so creating these restorative justice diversion programs in metro schools, working with juvenile courts to build restorative justice models, like all of these things that Gideon's Army does, like there are changes that are happening. I've also learned that you can't really push for, well, you can push for policy, but it helps for that policy to be informed by the community and by actually creating and piloting programs and then allowing the data and what you've learned from that to inform policy change. And so, because a lot of times we push for policy change, but we don't have anything to replace it.
Right.
And like systems, groups like schools or the police or juvenile court, they don't always know what to put in its place, and so then it goes back to being the same thing that it was before. All
right, we're going to dig a little deeper into this conversation, take a quick break, a couple of calls coming in, we hope for more. Stay with us, Open Line comes right back.